new decade. We closed that decade off on December 31st. I did it with a double in my hand, dancing with my wife. You know, may I forget, old Lang Syne. May I forget every agent I've ever met in my entire life just for 2 minutes here while I'm doing this. Close that year off and then start your engines. Here we go for another decade. The company's got to have a flag. I wear teal every place I go. I believe in our flag. I think you as Americans believe in your flag. We never want to have the flag hit the ground, right? We protect it. It represents who we are, what we stand for. I want you all, each and every one of you, to start wearing more teal. Guys, have the girls in the office buy for you. You can find teal ties. I know the guys don't see them, but the girls will. Okay? Have them shop for you. I asked the girls in my office to shop for teal ties for me because I couldn't only find a couple. I've now got 68 teal ties. I had to start 2 brand new racks just for teal ties. Hey, how do you get the price reduction? Ask for it. How do you get more teal ties? Ask for them. How do you get a price reduction? Ask for it. How do you sponsor somebody in? Ask for it. You got to learn how to ask and be confident and sturdy in your purpose, that you know who you are. You know you work for a good company. You're surrounded by good, solid people. You've got a sense of direction, a sense of purpose, because it's all about deliberate intention, isn't it? Now here's one for you, and it's very important. You should get this. You got to get it really solid, get it fixed in your computer. The kids talk about this a lot today. They say life is very random. And so it is until you introduce deliberate intention. Deliberate intention eliminates all randomness. Deliberate intention, in other words, purposeful intention, eliminates Murphy's Law. Murphy's Law says if it can go bad, it will. If it can, it will. But if you've got a sense of purpose in a certain direction, those ingredients in this computer eliminate the randomness and eliminate the possibility of it going wrong. All you have to do is add a little determination to that, a sense of firmness of your purpose. Now, are you firm in your purpose? Take a look at yourself and ask yourself this question, because we're just finishing off January here, but think about it for a moment. Have you set your goals for 2011? Have you got a sense of purpose? In Florida, we're just talking to the regionals, and Scotty Forbes and I go back a long way. Certainly in the building of Florida, going across Alligator Alley, singing our guts out, we're listening to the radio while we're putting on 60 Minutes. And we've done 76 60 Minutes in Florida to try to build it. And we got it up to 185 franchises. Well, ultimately, a beautiful finished product here from the standpoint of franchise sales would be 225, so that's what he's got his mind on, is 225. Now, you put about 40, 45 agents in every one of those offices, and there's no reason why we can't do that. You're into 10,000 agents. So what's on our sites, our objectives? It's 10,000 real estate agents in Florida. We want 10,000 real estate agents, and guess what? We're going to have, wants to sell 25 this year, and jack it up a little bit, love to bring them in 1,000 more real estate agents. Well, 1,000 more real estate agents, now your job really ultimately is to duplicate, multiply, and clone yourself a little bit by utilizing the system. What's the point? What's the point of being in a system with single level residuals that builds a future for you if you don't ask for the order? I just got my old age application in the mail. Yeah, bit of a joke, isn't it? Never thought I'd get here this quick. Guess how much, I'm a Canadian, so guess what the Canada Pension's going to pay me if I was to step off the tracks and get out of business right now. And we might be immortal souls, but we're only on this earth in this shape for so long. We're not going to last forever. One of my heroes just passed away a day ago, 2 days ago, Jack LaLanne. And he'd been one of my heroes. Lasted until he was 97. When he was 94, they said, Jack, you're an exercise guru. You're always suggesting to people to keep healthy and strong and vibrant and just get them out there exercising and eat the right foods and all the rest of this stuff. Are you going to live until you're 100 years old? And he says, I just want to be living while I'm living. Are you living while you're living? Are you enjoying the ride? Do you consider your life precious? Do you respect yourself? What if you said that? I respect myself. I respect my family. I respect what I'm doing. I'm proud of myself. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be in this world because I can add to it. I love life and I add to it. Guess what? Everyone in this room, everybody that we know, they're adding to life in your own way. You're adding to it. You can't pass through this lifetime without adding to everybody. You're adding to everybody around you. Now, what are you adding? Are you leading by example, setting a good example? Do you walk tall? I think we got to know the difference between right and wrong and then adhere to right. I think that's probably the right thing to do because I think it always pays off right. It pays off well. And we got to quit reaching in the cookie jar and take an unfair advantage. We've got to make up our mind that this is never going to happen again. And there has to be a line in the sand because if we as a people don't say that, it'll happen again. You got to say no. And the lines in the sand, they cut your destiny. And you formulate your sense of destiny with deliberate intention. You create your own reality with what you think about every moment of every day. Self-talk is so invaluable. It's valuable beyond all recognition. You're never going to need a shrink. You're never going to need a doctor ever again if you learn how to talk to yourself properly. And when you start doing this, little men in white suits are not going to come and take you away, okay? Despite the fact that you're in your car driving along, even if they said you're not allowed to use cell phones in the car, and you're not allowed to text and all this other stuff, just babbling away to yourself, driving the car, nobody's going to arrest you, okay? Is this a good thing to do? Yes, it is. You know, they'll go into it. People have a tendency to say, well, this is what he wants me to hear. No, just talk to yourself. It's not about me. I'm not going to expose anybody in the audience. What number would you really give yourself in relation to somebody that you know is an excellent negotiator? How would you rate yourself with regard to that? Because in the real estate business, we're negotiating all the time, aren't we? And we're mediating all the time, aren't we? And we're arbitrating all the time, aren't we? How good are you at these things? And did you want to improve, or are you going to stay the same for the rest of your entire life? Well, what happens if you improved 1? You said you were a 7. What if you were an 8? How much better would it be? How much easier would it be? I think delegation of authority and responsibility, certainly from a management standpoint, is very important. And what that means is you put yourself out of work as a result of replacing yourself well with other people and systems. You can delegate authority and responsibility to systems and people. You put yourself out of work, but you never put yourself out of a job. You're still in control. Well, ask yourself this question right now. What are you, a horse, or are you the stagecoach driver? The horses can make all the money. The horses have all the muscle. Isn't it true about real estate agents? Vince was up here a minute ago. As a real estate agent, my gosh, he needed help spending the money. Had lots of muscle. Had lots of muscle. Nice personality, good-looking guy. Diamonds. But guess what? You get to a certain point in your life where it's time to pass it down. You get to a certain point where it's time to feed what you know to somebody else, to pass down the wisdom, the understanding, the strategy, the insight, the knowledge, and pass it down to others as palatably well as they possibly can take it, to top them up. Because I think everybody is trying to do the best they can with what they got to work with. The problem is a lot of us don't have a lot to work with. So if you want to be a better self, you want to be a better you, you want to be the best you can be, you've got to tap into more information, have more access to environmental circumstances, situations, and information that's ultimately going to top you up and make you the best you can be. In other words, you've got to participate. You ever feel guilt? When was the last time you felt guilty? Felt guilty about something. You know what guilt is? It's a misappropriation of the word hate. You feel guilty when you didn't live up to somebody else's standards. Isn't that the truth? You feel it where? In your head? No, you don't feel anything in your head. You feel it in your gut, right here. You feel it down here. You feel guilty because you didn't participate, because you didn't get involved, because you had some poor excuse, some lame excuse for not going to the convention, right? You didn't participate. Well, I had a closing, had to be there. Oh, my God. Might have lost a couple of $100 because I didn't cross all the T's and dot all the I's just exactly right. Well, what if you did? What if you had got it all right? And what if you made $25,000 or $40,000 more as a result of going to the convention? Does that seem better to you than losing a few $100s for not participating in the closing? What is the definition of sacrifice? You sacrifice the lesser for the greater. That's what you do. And you walk across cut glass to get it right. Because it's good for your family, it's good for your financials, it's good for your customers, it's good for your whole life, it's good for you. And then you can be proud of yourself. You're not going to feel guilty. Well, what about resentment? Resentment's at the other end. Do you ever feel resentment? Are you feeling it right now? You resent others for not living up to your standards. Well, how resentful are you? Because they're not crossing the line. They're not tugging the load. Do you ever get resentful with regard to your kids? And it's a misappropriation of hate, going in the opposite direction. What's it all about? Force. Trying to force them to do something. See, if they were encouraged, if they were really totally encouraged to take out the garbage, especially if there was some incentives in there, here, kitty, kitty. that garbage will probably get taken out real quick. But since you try to force it to happen, all of a sudden you've got a relationship that will be lifelong lasting, and all of a sudden the kid won't talk to dad for the rest of his life, and dad wonders why. Because dad was the enforcer. You know what dad should have been his whole life? The reinforcer. All the dads in the room, I want you to assume a different position. Do not ever again, from this moment forward, be an enforcer at home. Not with your kids. Be a reinforcer. Be a reinforcer. Make them stronger. Tell them that they're strong. We were out at a park one day. We got 7 kids, 2 girls and 5 boys. And the last one to leave, he's going to leave next year and go to school. He's 17. The rest of them are over 22, 23, going up to 31. So I have my replacements, my clones. They all got their problems. They're all carrying their own load. You know what it's like to have kids. If you've got kids, and most of you probably have kids. Trying to get the most and the best out of themselves. And so I learned a long time ago it was smarter, especially with a clan like that, it's smarter to be a reinforcer. And always knowing and understanding that 85% of the nurturing comes from mom. It does. They always report back to mom for the rest of their entire lives. They might say hi to dad, might visit them every once in a while, especially if they're living under the same roof. And then maybe not, because dad was the enforcer, and he was called in, to exert force when mom couldn't do it. It got a little bit out of hand, and so dad ended up to be the bad guy. Aren't you fed up with being the bad guy? Why don't you spend the rest of your life? You've got lots of years left. The kids aren't that old. How old are they? Give me a break. Why don't you start reinforcing who they are, what they're all about? Why don't you pass down some of your wisdom and understanding? What if you're a grandfather? Why don't you set out to be a wonderful grandfather? Be the finest grandfather that you could possibly be. Why don't you specialize in that? We lost both grandmothers real early. They died in their 40s, and we had 2 grandfathers there that were like tomcats that never visited. So we learned what it was like not to have any grandparents available when we had 7 kids. I don't know if you know what that's like, but grandparents are very valuable people. So Kathy and I are sitting there saying we're specializing. We're saying, when we get to be a little bit older and the kids go out, and I'm telling her, she's saying, well, the last one's ready to move out. Who am I? I'm losing my sense of identity as a mother. I always wanted a big family. I had a big family and everything else, but now the last one's just ready to leave the nest. Who am I? I'm losing my identity. I said, hey, be thankful for the hiatus. 3 or 4 or 5 years from now, they're all going to go out and get married. They're all going to have a couple of kids. They won't have 7 because they've already been through that gauntlet. They'll have a couple. But then we've got 30 people. No, but think about what Christmas is all about. And I said, you love to hold the babies. I said, there are going to be 1 million babies. They're going to want you to babysit. I said, be thankful for the hiatus in between, because a few years down the road, we're going to have more business and we're going to know what to do with. Because life is pulse on, pulse off, isn't it? You want to evolve, you got to get involved. You participate, you be there. There are no excuses. What is that, hiding under a bucket? You've got to walk tall in this business. Your reputation's everything. And if you don't show up, it's a mark against your reputation. It's a mark on your report card. Now, talking about report cards, since I brought it up, what you're going to be receiving, it's going to happen probably in March. We put together report cards for all the agents that exit. So the administrator is going to be able to go over and push one button in memo, and all the report cards for the month are going to come out. And then she's going to roll it up and put it in your box so you can see where you are and how well you're doing. Now, you already know when you got it in your box that we know who you are and what you're doing because we printed it. Management knows, upper management knows, the regional knows, and everybody knows, and we're all looking at you. Now, here's what it's going to say, January, February, March, all the way down. It's going to have your name at the top and its exit report card, blah, blah, blah. And it's going to have how many listings you took that month, how many you've got in stock, how many sales ends you made, whether it was a double ender, whether it was a listing side, what it was, and all that stuff. And at the top, it's going to have your placement in the office. We got 57 people in the office. You are 54th. Woo! Now go the other way. We got 57 people in the office. You were number 3. Whoa. Guess what's going to happen? What do I have to do to knock off number 2?